Jeff, Carmenita, Megan, a pleasure to be speaking with all of you. We'll start with Carmenita first. How is your evening going?
It is dark here in on the East Coast in Virginia, but it is going well, and I'm just enjoying the opportunity to talk with everyone about this really special film. I think it's great.
And when in the process, Carmenita, did you find out that you were going to be involved with this wonderful film?
I was approached to offer some ideas and talk about it, and sort of pre-vetted for a chance to be on screen. And I let folks around me know I got a chance to be on camera before COVID. So in 2019, that fall, and then later, as the project kept going, Jeff and Megan kept contacting me to talk more, and it just took on a life of its own. So I think we're all very pleased that it came to fruition and to be in this moment to share it with everyone.
Now, moving over to Jeff here, director, we've seen lots of your other work, Won't You Be My Neighbor, et cetera, et cetera. But did you know outright that this should be a film as opposed to a series? And I say that because we could go 25 hours on Mickey Mouse and that wouldn't cover everything.
I mean, Megan, I don't know about you. I think we did go 25 hours. What were we thinking making 90 minutes?
But yeah, no, be alive if we did it that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was always approached as a feature. It was a while ago. So you bring up an interesting question, because that sort of like flavor of, it used to be you would get lost in the forest. You'd have a feature that was 3 hours long and people were like, you got to cut it in half. Now it's like you get lost in the forest and they're like, give me 3 more episodes of that, so it has that paradigm is completely shifted in terms of like, now everything is just these sort of long, wonderful rambles, and it has a different kind of vibe to it. But, I do think that it was good that we ended up doing a feature, because it just keeps that movement. And Mickey is so much about that kind of speed and style. We really wanted to reflect that with the film, that we were framing back a frame around a picture that was very kinetic. And, you could go into an animation research library and spend an hour there. There's enough, but in this case, you have 3 minutes and you better hurry up.
And hit the mark. Megan, how much cutting room footage is there on the floor? In other words, if we bought the Blu-ray or the DVD eventually, is there 7, 8, 9 hours of bonus stuff that we could look forward to?
Oh, I'm sure there is. When we interview people such as Carmenita and we follow the animators, we're following them for a whole day while they're animating. And you're seeing, as Jeff said, just a sliver of that. So yeah, I mean, Mickey's history is rich enough that we definitely have footage and interviews that we just, of course, can't fit in every single moment. And we were very diligent about picking key moments that propel Mickey forward in time and tell his story with the right beats.
Right. Well, Carmenita, as an art historian, how much of this film did you already know? 99% of it or 100% of it, you knew all of it?
It's okay if it's 100. You're the expert.
No, actually, I would say about 60. Folks don't spend time on Mickey. He is part of the early story of Walt Disney and the company and its founding. And then he sort of trickles away as scholars begin to spend time with the other cultural products, the other feature-length films, and the various avenues that Disney goes into, whether it's the parks and the ideology of the parks to the way they extend into other brands. So Mickey always looms there. He's a specter. And so just the rigor with which the film really targets this one character, I would say that there was a lot of uncharted territory. I think Mickey's a character we do take for granted, because he's situated so much subconsciously in our minds is what Disney is, and so it was great to be exposed to the rest of that.
Jeff, are you like me, where you had a Mickey doll before a certain age that you're comfortable with saying that you did?
I had a Mickey nightlight, so it protected me from the dark. So he's definitely, I think I'm with you there for sure.
Yeah, I think in my defense, I was 4 or 5 years old. Megan, did you have Mickey dolls or Mickey merch or swag, as the cool people would say growing up?
Sure, I still do.
Still do. On brand. What do you still have that we're allowed to know about?
Oh, I have t-shirts, I have ears. Before we started this, I went to the parks. I enjoyed it with friends and family. We took my nephews to Disney World this past year for their spring break. So I bought them a bunch of swag too. You just continue to pass it on to the next generation.
Oh, Carmenita, as somebody who's a historian, the knowledge goes up here, but at the same time, most historians I find have very interesting collections of artifacts. In your case, are you the collecting type historian?
I am not, but I am very cognizant of my relationship with Disney. I don't think one can study it, one can spend time with Mickey Mouse without recognizing and being honest about one's fandom. And you have to lean into that. If you want to understand why people are responding to Mickey or any of the other characters, you've got to appreciate what emotionally it's tapping into for them. And the best way to do that is to tap into your own fandom. So I have ears. When I took my family and when I took my kids to Disney World, the one thing that they wanted to buy, that they did buy, was the gloves, the oversized Mickey hands. And I have this wonderful picture of my son, who's now in his 20s, when he was younger, holding his hand. He loved them. And the kids fought over them. So of all the things, I thought that was fascinating, that it's got to be Mickey. It's got to be Mickey.
Jeff, an interesting thing about some of your titles that you've worked on is they might be children-oriented topics, universal kind of themes, yet you take a very adult approach to them. Is that a hint of other projects that may come from you in the future? Have you painted yourself into a corner with intellectualizing the joyful kids kind of projects?
No, I think it kind of, for me, comes back to one of the things Carmenita says in the film, which is like, it's that joy that we remember and then lose as we get older,
Right.
So, they're each different. For Mr. Rogers, it was really much more about the idea of a different kind of belief, a different kind of belief in, the goodness of each individual, so even though, I think I'm also going through a period where I'm an early parent. So it's very interesting for me to take things that were meaningful to me, but I hadn't thought about a lot, and start thinking about those things again. I always loved Mr. Rogers, but until I had a kid and watched it with my daughter, I didn't realize that he was basically preaching to me as a child when I was growing up, and preaching to me about contexts that were both faithful, but, were not, in my mind, specifically Christians, things like that. So same thing with Mickey. It's like, you see the look of those kids when they see him. And, my daughter is one of those kids in that opening scene, literally. So it's like, it's hard as a parent and as an adult not to look at these things and say, what's going on here? And particularly with Mickey, there's just so much history that it's, it's catnip, really.
Well, taking that thought and moving it over to Megan as a producer, I'd have to imagine that the hardest part of this whole project was either clearing some of this old footage, not knowing who the rights holders were, or just figuring out what's the most important stuff to go in. Am I wrong about that?
Luckily, we're making this in partnership with Disney, so a lot of the footage comes from their archives, which is nice. And yeah, I mean, there's just a plethora of Mickey materials out there. So the harder choices for us were, what are we going to include? Like, what are the archival moments that help tell this story? One of my favorite ones is when, we say, who's more iconic in the 20th century than Mickey Mouse, the Coca-Cola bottle, and Adolf Hitler? It's like there's these pieces of archival footage that really encapsulate what a phenomenon Mickey Mouse is.
I think it's fantastic, and this is not a question, this is a statement for disclaimer purposes, that you talk about the highs and lows of the Mickey brand within this film. That another Disney property of sorts, Star Wars, you have to remember there was a low point in the Star Wars franchise, maybe the Christmas special that John Bon Jovi sang on as a struggling artist. But it's refreshing to see that Disney didn't say, hey, don't cover those lean years. Is there a lot more to the lean years than we, the average people, know about? And I'll throw that one to Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a documentary about Mickey for the Disney Corporation, you better know what your line in the sand is in terms of what you need included. Mickey, another reason Mickey was an interesting character to me was not just because he's sort of as close to like shorthand for joy as we're ever going to get and we're ever going to share, but also there were these things growing up that I heard about, for instance, the schoolyard, the aftercare center that, was sued by Disney and they had to take down their artwork. And it's like, how far from, joy are we at this point, when, right. So it's like those kinds of moments that were both there and not there between, clips of Mickey and racially insensitive material would be put up on the web and then wiped, and there would be no comment. So in my mind, that was sort of the work, was the inside out of it, of like, let's get this on the record because this exists and we need to start talking about it. So, a Mickey Mouse documentary is not going to be the forum for that, but it can open the door to that. So that became the thing. And I think it was pretty clear from the first thing that even though we were serving it at Mickey's pleasure, that, these were necessary items as far as we were concerned, and that it would be coming from a place of joy, but it was going to be fundamentally honest with how it was doing it.
My last question before I let you all go is a really obscure one, but as a music person who listens to a lot of hard rock, one of my favorite hard rock bands of all time is a band called Rad. You probably know their songs Round and Round. I had a lot of MTV hits in the late 80s, early 90s. The original name of the band was Mickey Rad. Nice. Obviously, they shortened the name on that event. I was curious if that almost wound up in the documentary, because you did have a John Lennon photo. There is some rock and roll in there.
For sure. I mean, one of the more interesting parts to us for the film was that weird period where there starts to be this strange feedback where, the Ramones are wearing Mickey t-shirts. Are they being serious, or are they making fun of it? Or maybe they're doing a little both. You hear the song Mickey Mouse is Dead by, oh boy, Antonio's going to kill me, Meghan. It was Subhumans. Yeah, thank you. And, so yeah. Mickey Rat was discussed in the edit room, but was not included. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will tag Stephen Piercy from Rad.
Okay, good.
This, so he knows that. But the bottom line is congratulations to you all on getting this project out. It is important, meaningful. Commerce meets art. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Great questions.
Paltrocast.